Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Subscription Scaled. I'm your host, Nick Frederick. With me today is co-host Christy Beasley, and our guest today is Paul Chambers, who is the co-founder of SUBTA. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, fun. Well, we've talked with you guys before and are looking forward to doing it again today. But for those who might not have checked out the other episode, tell us a little bit about yourselves and, of course, SUBTA.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are so fortunate to be the leading voice in the D2C subscription community, helping bring together amazing brands from every aspect and every corner of subscription in all 6 segments, from subscription box all the way down to media and streaming. That is the space we love to be in. We run this community that has so many great interaction points through our Slack group, our Facebook group, the various different components of, the videos that we have out there. And then it all culminates in our SubSummit conference that we hold once a year with over 1,000 attendees. We'll be at probably 1,500 attendees coming up this June. And it's an absolute blast. We love living in this world.
Yeah. Wow. Isn't it nice to be back doing some face-to-face, like getting together and actually, talking and interacting instead of trying to do all of this stuff virtual?
It is. You forget about it. You forget about the energy and the excitement that comes from that. Being around people, talking shop and sharing ideas and learning from each other. And, you got to kind of rechannel and re-engage yourself of what that was like again. But once you get back out to it and get back in the groove, it's not to be missed.
Like riding a bike.
Absolutely.
We'll get right back into it. We never had a 2-year break there.
No.
So
well, take us back to the roots. Sorry. Go ahead, Christy.
I was just going to say, can you tell me a little bit how you got involved in subscriptions? Like, what's your background there?
Yeah. Funny enough, I've been doing subscriptions for 25 years, and not always in the D2C space, more recently in the last decade in D2C. But my very first business that I started was one of them was a website hosting company. So I've always had that recurring revenue model in mind. I've always loved it. Over the course of time, have built a variety of different businesses. And about 7 years ago, started a company called The Gentleman's Box. And it was a subscription box to turn any man into a true gentleman. Most of the time it worked. Some of them, we can't make every man a gentleman, but we tried. And we were learning a lot about the business, and we wanted to meet other like-minded subscription box owners. And we looked for a subscription conference, found it didn't exist. We're crazy entrepreneurs. We're like, oh, we should be able to make a conference. Let's do that to meet other subscription box owners. And we launched SubSummit in 2016. Yep, 2016. These lost years make time go a lot faster. But the rest is kind of history from there. We've continued to grow and scale, and we've been so fortunate to really be in this space. Since that time, we've exited Gentleman's Box. That's allowed us to really focus wholly on SUBTA, the Subscription Summit, what we're doing there, and really put all of our efforts into helping guide the community without any biased views, right? We didn't want people to think, we're playing favorites to the Gentleman's Box fulfillment partner. No, we really try and provide unbiased opinions and help make sure people just get the knowledge they need to help make decisions.
So, I find that people outside of subscriptions are surprised to hear that 1,500 people would get together just to talk about subscriptions.
I know it's super nerdy, but we love doing it. But that's the crazy part is it's a $250 billion industry, and it's so fun. I've had conversations today with everybody ranging from Volvo cars to the Washington Post to FabFitFun, and there's so many different aspects to it. And one of the stories I love to tell most often is a couple years ago, one of the payments leads over at Sling TV came up to us and said, we learned something from MeUndies, the underwear subscription, that we took back to our business and applied and was a 6-figure revenue differentiator for us. And so a streaming subscription, learning from an underwear subscription, it can't get any better than that. And that's where, we see so many different ways of looking at things and talking about it, from acquisition or retention down to operations and logistics.
Yeah. So whenever you guys did get started, I'm sure you had some learning curves. So how have you been able to incorporate that in? I know that especially during SubSummit, you have some things that are targeted towards people that are new to the industry and, been in the industry for a while. So what were some of the lessons that you had to learn, and what do you feel like you really want to pass on?
Yeah, I mean, there's countless lessons every day, and the interesting thing is, I mean, it's such a space that's continuing to change so much and so fast. You know, when we were running a subscription box, and what we see a lot with the subscription boxes is, you know, even right now, as inflation keeps being a center part of our conversation in our lives, how are we, you know, helping cut costs, or how are we helping conserve over here so we can provide more value over there? Shipping and fulfillment continues to be a challenging part of the conversation, and how are we getting better there? Looking at overseas suppliers and pulling in products. What happens when stuff gets stuck in port? You know, so having conversations around that. There's a lot of things we learned early on, and you know, we still continue to bring as topics to the event and make sure they're things that people are talking about. But you know, one of the key components that is often overlooked in the subscription space is the retention side of things. So making sure people are really focused on, you know, you've got that customer in the door, and the reason our theme of our event this year is Shift and Discover is because what we want to encourage subscription companies to do is shift your perspective, shift the way you look at things, shift the way you think about your business maybe just for a minute, and discover what's possible, discover what's next, discover new ways to keep your subscribers engaged and with you. And we don't believe in tricking people into renewing every month, right? That's really the wrong way to look at things as a subscription business. Because if you're focused on, you know, how can I just get another dollar out of them, you're not building a long-term relationship with somebody. What we want to do is promote building solid relationships that stand the test of time. And even if they cancel for now, it's not forever. You know, let's take, maybe they're going to take a break and they're going to come back. We see this happening in streaming a lot right now, where you have so many different options with Paramount Plus and HBO and Disney Plus and Netflix. And yeah, I might take a break from Netflix for right now because one, they are on my password sharing secret. And two, it's just, you know, maybe there's a program I'm looking for, but I'm not going to leave Netflix forever. I'll come back. Yeah. And so how do you foster those really good relationships? And that's what we're most excited about continuing to promote.
Yeah, and you brought up earlier about, you know, the challenges that we're seeing today with like shipping and fulfillment with, you know, everything that's being stuck in transit and stuff like that. So how do you keep customers happy and keep them retained when you're having major issues like that? What are some recommendations that you may have given people before?
You know, every time I have a challenge in life with a company that I work with, either as a vendor of mine or partner, whatever it may be, you know, I had a struggle with Peloton earlier this year, actually end of last year. Tried buying a Peloton tread and bike. It wasn't a good experience. I channeled my way to the director of logistics, global logistics, supply chain logistics, through a friend I had at Amazon, and pointed out the problem to them. And what it boiled down to at the end of the day was just communication. And that's what we most often see is, if you can be proactive and have good communication and just let people know what's going on, you can solve a lot of your headaches. I mean, people are still going to be mad. They're still going to be upset. You know, they paid for something and they're not getting it. But if you can let people know what's going on and be as transparent as possible, you're going to win. You're going to at least keep a larger percentage of them than making them upset and losing them. And the issue with Peloton at the end of the day was really an operational thing for them. I discovered if you order both at the same time, they don't have teams that install those anymore. So you get lost in a black hole of your install date keeps getting pushed out and out and out and out. So what I ended up doing to figure out the problem, I bought them separately and I had them within a week.
Oh.
I pointed this out to them and they're like, oh, cool, we'll pass it up the chain. And that's where it ended. I would have been much more, and I was like determined to solve this problem for Peloton. They weren't as happy with me determined to solve the problem, but it's like, this is the problem this is my issue in life, is I want to solve everybody's problems. Yeah. And, you know, they're like, okay, cool. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, they probably changed some things internally and figured out that challenge. But if they'd communicated to me, hey, we figured this out. Thanks so much for helping us recognize that. Here's what we're going to be doing to fix it going forward for other people, would have probably even changed this conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, doesn't that go such a long way, that communication though, and just acknowledging your problem and being like, oh yeah, that actually is a problem, instead of, yeah, we get it. Every customer complains, so I'm just gonna, you know, file that and put that in file 13 over here. And hope that you remain a customer. But
Yeah, and
yeah, that goes such a long way.
And I'm not trying to like use my position in the subscription industry to get any special treatment or anything. What I'm trying to use my position in the subscription industry is to help their organization and help them, figure out so it doesn't become a headache for other people. I mean, this is where we're so fortunate to be able to be here to help put our dent in the universe and impact people's lives in that positive way. I mean, one of the things I talk about on as many as podcasts and as many times as I can is my personal mission of solving Comcast customer care problem. I mean,
Good luck.
widely known. Like as soon as I say that, didn't your blood pressure go up a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. Just when you mentioned that.
Oh yeah, and it shouldn't be that way, right? This is one of the biggest subscription companies in the world. We're giving our money, our hard-earned money, every month for something that they just keep increasing the price on. And when I call them, it's a challenge, and you make me feel like crap, and it shouldn't feel that way. Right? We should be friends because you're providing me a service that I love and appreciate, and I want to appreciate it. But that's where, it's our mission to help educate the community on if you were to just change the mentality a little bit, if your leadership were to change your mentality and treat your customers differently. And I know that the extra $3 times millions every month impacts your bottom line. But boy, what if you just approach it a little bit different and changed the way you did that and had a better relationship? How much more positively would that impact your business? So that's what I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad
I
we're
will
not
say
the
that,
only ones that are reaching out to customers. I think a lot of times I laugh at myself because I'm like, oh, your website did this. And I try to give them good feedback. And then I'm like, is anybody ever really listening? But it's almost like you can't help yourself when you're in the industry. You can see all these little things. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who does that.
Yeah, you're not alone.
I would certainly say from my experience doing this podcast and talking to a lot of founders and owners of subscription companies, you can genuinely tell, and most of them that we've had on are care about customer service. Like
Yeah.
not just to the extent of we want to provide good customer service, they actually want to build a community around their product, which that to me is something fundamentally like an Amazon Subscribe and Save will never be able to do, right? They're just trying to sell you a product.
Right.
But you've got a
Volume.
lot of these great brands that are trying to build a community around it, and then they actually go out, try to solicit that feedback. They don't just take it if it's given to them, like they go out and want to receive it, and then of course, use that information and implement changes to the process or the product itself. And
Yeah.
that's the best way right there to deal with retention and reduce churn, right?
Right, right, and that's what surprised me about Peloton, especially as I went through that, because I had so many friends that used it, that raved about the community, and loved the product and loved the brand. When you see people wearing shirts with a brand name on it, like that to me is next level as a brand, because they're paying you to wear their brand name on their sleeve or their shirt or wherever it is, and so you've got such a loyal fan base and following. It really surprised me when the experience starts that way in a negative fashion. Now that was niche, right? Not everybody's running out and buying a tread and a bike. And the only reason we did that is because my wife and I couldn't agree. And so I'm like, screw it. This will be a present for both of us for our birthdays this year. I wanted a bike. She wanted a tread. And, we just spent all of our hard-earned money on these two devices that they didn't even want us to have. But, there's anomalies in there. But it did surprise me that, when I went into the store to try and solve the issue, the guys at the store were like, oh, we can only sell it to you. We can't fix the supply chain problem. We can't call the warehouse. That floored me. That absolutely floored me. I'm like, really? So, it's those types of experiences that, hopefully they get fixed over time, and you surprise you on some of those brands sometimes.
And I think companies that have a high growth, like really quickly, I think a lot of times their processes get lost and you have gaps that they don't realize, and communicating that back up to leadership, it has to go through so many channels, it gets lost. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to
And
see that.
That's one of the challenges with high growth sometimes. And one of the things that we like to look at, when we talk about things at the conference or we talk about things at SUBTA is, as you're scaling, how do you keep track of those early experiences that you really curated and made possible at this level? How do you continue those things? Sometimes it's, through process, sometimes through good leadership, sometimes putting the right people in place. Not always possible to keep that because there are certain challenges. There are things that are done manually that just aren't scalable. But how do you find ways to do that? And that's a super important thing in any fast-growing brand.
looking at the conference itself, one thing that I've certainly experienced and I hear feedback all the time is I like going to these conferences, but I attended this session and it was too high level, or I attended this session and I don't even know what they were talking about. They got way too in the weeds for me. How are you guys dealing with that? Like, how can the average attendee come maybe in their first year, and expect to get value out of it? Do you guys do tracks or
Yep.
put things into like 101, 201 categories? What do you do?
Yeah, so that's the 101 201's a good idea. I'm gonna borrow that for the next one. But what we've done this year on the track sessions, we have 3 tracks. Track 1 is our startup and early stage. Track 2 is for our mid-market and fast growth, and then track 3 is the enterprise level. Tracks 2 and 3 blend a little bit because a lot of times those high growth mid-market companies love the knowledge of the enterprise level, and enterprise can learn a lot from those mid-market and high growth. But those that are in the startup early stages are definitely in a unique position. However, the one thing that I hear sometimes is, our keynote and general sessions are some of the bigger names, bigger talks out there. We have DoorDash coming in this year to talk about the success they've had with Dash Pass, which is a little known secret they have. Truebill is coming to our main stage this year to talk about what they're doing out there. And I think any brand can really learn and listen to those conversations and take away little nuggets. That's why our main stage is less tactical. Our main stage keynotes are more future vision thinking. Where's the industry going? Where are things happening? And it's interesting because I've been going after Truebill for 2 years now. I've been trying to get Haroon to come and speak at our conference. Timing just never worked out. And I laugh because, it's
Are
like,
you giving him a shield to carry up on stage?
well, that's exactly it. They're out there screaming from the rooftop, cancel the subscriptions you don't need anymore. And I'm the idiot that's inviting them to come to our stage, right? But I think it's really valuable to know, why are they saying that? And how do you be part of that to make sure that if people are canceling, why? And how are you managing those relationships at that point? Right? There's a reason why they're using that as their main marketing message. And I use Truebill. I use it I found a subscription that my wife signed up for at the holiday season to help get a discount. We weren't taking advantage of it anymore. And I used Truebill to cancel it for me. And that's okay. It's because we weren't taking advantage of that. We didn't want it at that time. And we forgot it existed out there. I said to my wife, I was like, what is this for? And she's like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot we have that. And we're paying like $18 a month for it. And that's how we bought the Pelotons. But it's little things like that, if we can understand as a subscription business, more the mentality of the consumer and what the other driving forces are, the better off we can be as a subscription business out there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give them a shield.
They might need it, at least at first, until maybe you can talk some people off the ledge. But
Right.
yeah, I think what they might bring to the table in terms of this is why consumers want this service is because, quite frankly, there are bad actors out there who are only trying to get you to sign up and extract every dollar that they can before you're eventually going to cancel, right? That's why this started. I've been doing subscription long enough to know that used to be the case, right? It was just all a numbers game. Get them in the top and wait till they come out the bottom. But that's really been turned on its head in recent years.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing. I talked with a very large fitness chain at one point in time. This is only a couple years ago. It was pre-pandemic. And they were having to change part of their business model in certain states because no longer were they allowed to lock people into their subscription. If you know most gyms, this is the way they operate. They get in the 12-month agreement and you're stuck into it until it expires. And actually, I was talking with somebody earlier today. My wife, when we were in college, was in one of those fitness subscriptions. The only way she could get out was by proving she was moving to an area that didn't have the gym close by anymore. And so I had to fake an electric bill for our cottage up in West Branch, Michigan, and put her name on it, photoshopped her name on it. Because, she was moving to Detroit. There wasn't one close by. They said it was within 50 miles or something. Anyway, the long and the short of it was this fitness brand realized that if in the states where they didn't force people to stay in the subscription anymore, they actually saw better long-term lifetime customer value because they were able to go in and out of it and come in when they wanted to versus being forced to stay in it for the 12 months, being angry at the end of the subscription and never coming back. Right. So there's tremendous value in not locking people in. And you don't realize it until sometimes your hand is forced in that. Just like the call to cancel thing. You think it's going to be for the best because you can try everything to keep them, but call to cancel is the worst thing in the business, in my opinion.
Well, isn't that a symptom of being overly focused on a metric? Like some CFO going, our churn numbers suck.
Yeah,
I want everybody to swarm and figure out how to solve this problem. And, that's what leads to things like hiding cancel buttons or removing
right.
them altogether or, practices like that. But those come at the detriment of not just that organization, but sometimes the industry as a whole, right? Because I think most people would say they're apprehensive to go even talk to in person a fitness club because they know they're going to get the hard sell. And once they're signed up, they're locked in. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the general perception, right? So, I mean, how do we work around that?
I think it's just about talking about it as an industry, talking about it in subscription and how this can be better, better for the industry as a whole, and encouraging people to have that long term view rather than that short sighted vision of, gosh, our churn is this right now. What does that churn look like? And really focusing on like that customer lifetime value, and so continuing to reinforce that, and that's our goal as the trade association, and what we're doing out there is help people realize like creating better relationships, better customer experiences lead to greater value in the long run.
Absolutely.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Right. But, I think that's a good point. We need to talk about it as an industry through, organizations like yours and share these stories that, we're doing ourselves collective harm through these practices and to take it a step further, have some accountability, call out the players who are, willingly, still in these archaic practices that aren't even in their own best interest.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to ask you about you had mentioned at the beginning, the 6 segments of subscription. We talk about it all the time as a service provider, like, okay, we have this entire addressable market, but they all have different needs, right? Box of the month clubs versus digital versus insurance for all of the different segments of subscription, while they are all recurring revenue, have very different requirements, operate in different ways. The products are just fundamentally different. What led you guys to, these 6 segments, and with subscriptions popping up in very non-traditional places right now, do you see that expanding, or where are we going with this?
That's a good question about expansion, and it'd be hard for me to say with certain. It's like saying everything that could be invented has been invented, and that blowing up my face tomorrow, right? So I think we're going to see continued evolution of that, and admittedly, we've evolved the way we've defined those 6 segments in the last few years. Media and streaming now in one category versus, we used to have a SaaS, and we've changed that to digital. So that's going to continue to evolve. Volvo is building out an amazing car subscription. BMW's experimented with car subscriptions. And you look at like Tesla, their future, Elon Musk said from the very beginning, you would subscribe to your car, not own it. That's their long-term vision. So that creates a whole new category in itself in the automotive ways. Right now, we see really those 6 segments and those 6 sides of it, and very well could expand in the future. But that's there's common thought that it's just subscription box and those physical subscriptions and the subscribe and save, because that's what we associate it with the most the Dollar Shave Clubs of the world, the Birchboxes of the world, FabFitFun. But you've got Rent the Runway on the other side, and Stitch Fix, as much as they don't call themselves a subscription, they're still subscription. You're paying them a monthly revenue. But the number of times I've had Stitch Fix decline to come to our show because they don't want to be associated with subscription is about as many times as I've had other conversations out there trying to track people down. So it's interesting, but we'll see this industry continue to evolve. We alongside other friends out there in the industry with Tinzo at Zora, see strong future. It's the end of ownership and the continued building of usership and membership out there.
What are some interesting new ways, new verticals that you see subscription popping up out there? Just maybe one that you just saw the press release and were like, wow, I can't believe somebody thought of that.
Well, one that I was excited about was Taco Bell's taco subscription, because you can never have enough tacos. There's usually 4 or 5 Tuesdays in a month, so I've got those days covered now. We're seeing more and more companies embrace that as different ways of bringing their customers back, rewarding their customers for being part of it. Panera Bread rolled out a coffee subscription a little bit pre-pandemic, and it carried through the pandemic. I love that, and it totally worked on me. I have Panera Bread on my way into our office here every day, and let's say, like, if I would stop there 5 days in a week, 3 of the days I'd get a breakfast sandwich, right? So it was working where the coffee was, if I was utilizing it that much, it was a loss leader for them, but they were making money on the food items that they were getting out of there. So we're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing some of the obvious ones, the things that you need on refilling, like Who Gives a Crap and Bippy doing toilet paper subscriptions. Those are very fun, names. In all sorts of different aspects of our lives that we'd love to see it evolve. But I was particularly excited about the taco subscription, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if McDonald's cheeseburger passes, it's the next one coming, or
It's a matter of
something
time.
similar to that. Yeah, it's probably a matter of time. And maybe it's fries. I mean, they're known for their fries, so maybe that's something.
All right, if they do it, it started here, right now. This is your idea.
We get all the credit right here. This is
We're
being recorded.
Taking
Yeah,
credit
we
for the
got it.
fries subscription.
Yeah. Well, what are some untapped verticals then, where you're like, gosh, these guys are just sitting on something here that they haven't explored yet?
I think it's when you sit back and you look at things that, if you want to, well, I'll give you a good example. In 2016, we had Josef Martin from BoxyCharm on our stage, and he was just getting started with what he was doing. 5 years later, or actually 7 years later, 6 years, he was sitting on our stage here. He was virtually on our stage in Dallas in 21, and he had been acquired by Ipsy. When he started, he was going head to head with Ipsy, and he was the underdog, grew so big and was nipping at their heels so much that they acquired him and created a much larger business as part of that. So I always like giving that example, because even if you think, gosh, there's an 800-pound gorilla out there, I'll never be able to chip away at that market.
Yeah.
It's absolutely 100% possible. So, Birchbox, when we first started in this business, Birchbox was the leader, and now they're really not where they once were. They're not the king, queen of the industry. They're still sorting through some refreshes in their business model and where they're going with it. But another example I give quite often is lawnmowers, right? Me and all my neighbors in suburbia, we all own lawnmowers. We all use them once every week and a half. And it's absolutely ridiculous that we all each own a lawnmower. Why don't we have one central lawnmower in our neighborhood that we subscribe to and we'll use on that model? And then we can use it when we need it, that one time a week, every week and a half, depending on how nice you want your lawn to look. And, that's relevant and specific to maybe, suburban neighborhood or wherever it may be. But there's lots of other ideas out there that you can expand upon and run with. And really the trifecta, Jay Myers from Bold Commerce talks about this a lot, kind of that ultimate subscription stack is having the discovery and delight along with the subscribe and save and along with the membership approach, where you can really offer all three aspects of those in your subscription to members. A great example I give a lot is Vinyl Me Please. I call them the most polite subscription in the world because please is built into their name. And they offer a great product because you're going to get a new vinyl every month, which is really cool. You're allowed to buy some of the vinyls as a member in their program. You can get some that exclusive member price. You get access to certain ones that they are only available to members. So they've got me on this awesome little system where I get this exclusivity as a member, that membership perk. I'm subscribing and saving every month, and I'm discovering and delighted by some of the new music introduced to me. That's a great way to really build a customer relationship. So there's always ideas to spin off of something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because I think a lot of subscriptions tend to focus on one of those things and leave some of the others kind of off the, or they just don't think about it or incorporate it into the program. But if you can kind of come at them from a few different angles of, that value angle of, oh, I'm actually saving money with this, and oh, I'm getting something that I otherwise wouldn't have access to, or I'm getting something that only I can get access to as being part of this club. I mean, you bring all of those things together. Yeah, I mean that affects consumer behavior in a way that you can't do through any other means, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. You were talking a second ago. Sorry, go ahead, Christy.
I was just going to say, we've also had a lot of retail chains and stuff like that that have come to us recently that are looking to get into subscription. So, do you have any best practices, recommendations for existing companies that are trying to shift? I know that's one of your themes this year for SUBTA. So, any insights there?
Yeah, good setup there. Nice job. Thank you. The shift and discover the theme. It's interesting because we do see some of the biggest brands in the world that are starting to get into it, starting to think about it, and how can they expand on that. What we always like to say is you really kind of take that step back, assess the opportunity and where the needs are from a customer standpoint. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it's an iteration of that. But Volvo, when they're a massive brand, they're selling cars. They don't need they don't need to create a subscription. But what they saw, their customers wanted just an easy turnkey solution. And the way their subscription works is you get the car, the insurance, the ongoing maintenance, everything all included in one package. And you're just paying this monthly subscription price. You're not having to go out and get the insurance. You're not having to worry about maintenance. The car's, part of that. And then, 12 months, 24 months, whatever it may be, turn in and get the new one. Similar to lease, but a little bit better, a little bit different, a lot more relaxing for you as a consumer. Now, there's a ton more that's happening in the connected space, as automotive is going to be hugely disrupted by subscription in the next decade here, as we're going to subscribe to components of our cars. And that's going to be interesting because we'll see how consumers react to that. We're not used to having to subscribe to services we get access to in our car. I felt a little frustration the other day when I logged into my wife's GMC app, and it's like, oh, you can remotely start your car, but you can't get diagnostics because you're not subscribed to this part of it. And in my head, I'm thinking like, I know it's right there. I know you can see it. Like I have to pay you to turn that on, and just turn it on. But it's something we're not adjusted to as consumers yet. And over time, that'll be, it's a new revenue opportunity for them, and they'll figure out a way to make it, less frustration from I'm used to getting this for free standpoint and more of value add. And that's what they'll start to find of like, okay, maybe we should, unlock these hidden features for them, but here's some new things we can add to it. You can add apps to your car maybe as part of being a subscriber. You can get regular maintenance as part of that membership program that's coming into it. Electrification is going to change that too. You're going to get access to so many kilowatt hours of charging every month at your local GM dealership. So we'll see those things start to unfold as these big brands find ways to address the market and where it's needed.
Yeah, and one thing that you said earlier that really, I think there's a lot of barriers a lot of times when you have companies that are traditionally retail or a model that hasn't really come to light yet, right? So one thing that I feel like Volvo did was they combined your insurance with the subscription. So it kind of takes that barrier of entry away from the customer. So I feel like that's one thing that if you can take a barrier of entry away, then that's going to help you be better in the subscription space.
Yeah, make it easier and faster, because that's one of the, I forget about this every time I go to buy a car or change, things around with cars. I'm like, oh, don't forget, send your insurance over to us when that's ready. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do that. Like, it's just an annoyance. But if it's done for me, like, how cool is that? And it's ready to go. So, yeah, just making it easier for consumers at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maintenance too. I think falls into that same bucket there, Christy. It's just another thing I got to think about. But if it's their car, yeah, they're gonna probably be sending you a text message or calling you in the car to be like, "Hey, you're at an oil change interval. Get in here. Have it done."
Yeah, I'm not worried about scheduling it, or I can jump in the app and put it into the schedule, or I'm not worried about how many millions of dollars it's going to cost because it's ultra premium oil or whatever it may be, unless it's an electric car, and that changes it even more so. But it reduces that friction for sure, makes it a better customer experience.
Yeah. What that's kind of in the category of an alternative model, but I think one of the things that's gaining some traction, and call it a subset of subscription maybe, but it's the usage-based model, or something that's more variable than this fixed fee per month, no matter how much or how little you use my service. Do you expect to see those to gain more traction?
Yeah, I would imagine you're going to start to see a lot more of that, and that's when Dollar Shave Club first launched, they would have benefited from looking at that a little bit more faster, because that was in the beginning. You saw like a common complaint was like, okay, this is cool, this is cheap, but I'm like, the razors are stacking up.
Yeah.
What if instead they flipped that model on its head a little bit and said, let us know when you're running low. push this button in the app and we'll ship the next one out to you, rather than just like keep sending them every week or every 2 weeks. And so then they start to learn your habits, and they notice like, hey, you pushed this button last time 2 weeks ago. Are you ready for the next one? And now it's sort of on that usage-based subscription model. And a lot more companies are starting to look at that. We're seeing, and to their defense, the software wasn't quite evolved yet, maybe at that point. Like our mindset wasn't quite there yet, and the tech stacks weren't quite there yet. Now the tech stacks are so far advanced with the AI and the analytics and everything you can see. It's easy to make those, put those things in place, and that's where we see a lot of that going now.
Yeah. And I know you've also talked about, like when you did the gentleman's box, shifting your price point out. So, right, you guys went from a monthly to a quarterly subscription and saw really good results with that. And I think that's something that Dollar Shave Club did as well, which is you can change your frequency of how often you need a resupply. So I think subscription models that are looking at offering alternative to just a standard monthly subscription, I think they're headed in the right direction as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because we kind of stumbled into that. I'm sure Chris shared this with you, but we released this limited edition box and it sold out rapidly. And we're like, wow, there's an appetite for this price point and what people want there. And what if we did this on a quarterly basis? And then we're like, man, quarterly is so much more relaxing than monthly. It's not, it's not happening so fast and furious every month. It's recycling there. But, that was a fun part of that, just being able to uncover different ways to approach the subscription with the consumers and find where people's comfort level were and what their appetite was for different levels of subscription. I lost Nick there. Do you lose Nick too?
Am I still here?
Yep.
Oh, you're still there, Nick. We got you. Your video just disappeared.
Am I here? I don't know what. I'm still stuck at 30% uploaded. Huh. All right. Am I back now? All good?
Back.
We lost the camera, but we can still hear you.
I have the camera on my side.
Okay. Keep rolling.
No need to edit this out. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, Paul, relates to subscription fatigue, right? And this kind of goes back to our Truebill conversation, right? There's so many subscription available products out there now, and it's not slowing down. There's only going to be more. What do you think brands need to do to stand out, demonstrate value, and not be the one of the 5, 10, 15 subscriptions they've got that they feel like they need to cancel?
Yeah, I think it's about continuing to stay relevant and helpful and beneficial. And it depends on the subscription type, right? If you're a subscription box that's doing discovery and delight, continuing to do that. And if people are getting box burnout and getting too much of one particular product, then giving them the opportunity to pause or change their frequency. Right? That's an easy one. If you're subscribe and save, understanding your customer's frequency a little bit better. And then if you're a service that offers membership or you're streaming or a medium publication, continuing to provide content that's valuable and people will want on that regular basis. So making sure that that's a big part of that. And so many companies are chasing that today. But, staying relevant and providing value is going to be the most important parts of it.
And would you say the most effective way to ensure that you're actually doing that, to measure it, I guess, is to get your customer feedback? Or is there better ways to do that?
Oh my gosh. No, I mean, getting that customer feedback, and you can get that customer feedback in a variety of different ways. You can do it by surveying the customers and asking them regularly. The easiest, most obvious one is in that cancellation flow. If somebody's going to cancel, asking them, what's the reason for cancellation and why. We went through recently, we did this on our subscription review show. We did one of Ipsy and we did one of Birchbox. And for as long as Birchbox has been around for, their cancellation flow was abysmal. It was absolutely terrible. And they just allowed us to straight up cancel it without asking any questions whatsoever. And I was shocked. They've been in business for so long and they didn't pause to take a second to understand why we were canceling it. They're like, all right, cool, we're good. And that was it. So there's some really obvious places where you can get that feedback and collect that information. I love just picking up the phone and talking to customers from time to time.
Yeah. Right.
We used to do that at Gentleman's Box. We'd say, we just want to understand why you're canceling. We do this at SUBTA still regularly. If somebody isn't finding value in their membership here with what we're doing, pick up the phone and talk to them. and want to understand what can we do to be better. Sometimes we can fix it. Sometimes we can't, right? Sometimes we're just not, you're not a good fit for everybody, or things change in their lives,
Sure.
and
Right.
things happen. But if there's things you can do to improve, you absolutely want to know why.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I am curious though, when you're in the cancel flow and the customer gets prompted with a, hey, what of these reasons did you cancel for? Or here's a free form box to type it in. Do you feel like that data is always reliable, or do you feel like there's customers who are just going, I just want to freaking cancel. I click any radio button and I hit submit and I move on.
I mean, look, there's going to be some margin of error into it. And it probably is a little bit higher than normal in a good like proactive survey. But I don't know. I always, I'm probably an outsider on this. I always answer them honestly because I like to provide that feedback. But yeah, you're gonna, if your top radio button gets the most selection, now a good company will have those rotate on a regular basis, just provide some variety in there. But I do think that there's some validity to that data. There's going to be some validity to it. But yeah, you'll get the people that are just get me through this.
Well, we are certainly excited about the upcoming SubSummit show, but for those who haven't checked it out yet, tell them where they need to go to learn more about it. And is there anything in particular that you're excited to announce or tell them about right now about this year's show?
Yeah, we are. We're in the middle of it right now. It's a little chaotic around the office here as we're in the last 2 months. We're almost on the month of April here. We're super excited to continue to bring this event back in person. We came back in person this past September as we were getting back in the swing of things. We had almost 600 people back in person, put things in place, so if COVID rears its ugly head again, we're practicing those same things going into this event. Everybody's got different comfort levels. So we do things like giving people different lanyard colors they can wear and I think this is, the health and safety thing will continue on forever, right? If you want to get close to people, put a green lanyard on. You can give hugs and high fives. If you want to keep a little bit of distance, put a yellow lanyard on and do elbow bumps and give me a little bit of space. And if you're an introvert and just want to hide out in the corner, throw a red lanyard on and don't get too close to anybody, right? So we're going to continue to do those things at our event always. We're excited to come back with our pitch competition on June 1st, which is awesome. 4 companies competing for a $50,000 prize package live on stage in front of our distinguished judges. On Thursday of the program, we've got some amazing keynotes, amazing sessions. Our Cube Awards are back. So any company out there who's listening haven't nominated themselves yet for a Cube Award, that's a totally free program. The entry is free. The trophy is free. The dinner is free. It's all part of the ticket. We literally roll out a red carpet that sits in our warehouse 364 days a year, and we use on that one day. And then we have an amazing meal, an amazing award ceremony. It's the Oscars of the subscription space. Have an awesome after party. And then the content continues into that Friday. And if you're up for it or want to bring your family, go to Disney World. We have discounted Disney tickets because it's at the Swan and Dolphin right there on the property. Or take your team. Bring your family or take your team out to a day in the parks. We did it when we did a site tour a couple months ago. It was awesome. It was a great team building time. We chatted while we were standing in the line for some of the rides. We just enjoyed each other's company, and so it was a blast. So excited for every aspect of SubSummit. And if you want to check it out, you can go to subsummit.com. You can get tickets. You can join our hosted buyer program, a way to get there for free and be part of it, or just come as you are.
Awesome. Well, Paul, really enjoyed the conversation today. As always, it's fun to go in different directions of subscription and talk about the trends and where we see things going. It's very exciting. I mean, there's so much, I'm sure, to talk about at this year's show. We're excited to participate in it as well. So thanks again for coming on the show.